All right, so the first thing we're going to do for this Cameron block assembly is we're going to place your Cameron block. And actually it looks like I'm on a part file, so I'm going to start up. All right, so now I'm on an assembly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go place. For this placement, our first thing to place is going to be block 4. That's going to be kind of our main block. So we're going to place in block 4 first and place it on the screen. Remember what your first step is when you're placing a block. This block moves around like so. What do I need to do to this? I need to ground it. When I'm grading, one of the very first things I do is I grab your block to see if it moves. If it slides around like this, you lose points. So let's make sure things are grounded. Remember to right click and click on ground, and that's good. The next thing is, yours may not be in this orientation. Yours is probably more so in, let me get there, is probably more so in this orientation. If that's the case, you want it in a different orientation. Flip to the last page of the handout where you see this block all put together. To simplify it, to make it visually easier for you, if you put your block in the same orientation it is here, it makes it a little bit easier to put this thing together. So what you have to do is you have to get it in this orientation. To do that, you're going to hold your shift key down and your middle mouse button and rotate this around to where it's approximately in that orientation. So there, I'm close. When you're close, click on the corner of your cube and see if you're close enough. Ah, look at that. That put that in a perfect isometric view right there, and that's beautiful. If you're not there, if you need to, click on the corner of the cubes here, and it'll rotate it around that axis. So for example, if yours was like this, click on this corner twice, once and twice, and it'll get it back around to that view. So once you're here, like this is the correct view.
What's this about shift in the middle mouse?
Shift in your middle mouse button, you can rotate just as you did in CAD. So hold shift, click your middle mouse button, and you should be able to rotate your block like this.
Okay, so I'm just looking at it from a different angle. I'm not actually moving it.
You're not moving it, you're rotating your view.
Okay, that makes sense.
So let me get mine back there in that approximate view, and we'll be good. All right, there. All right, so once you're in that view that looks like the handout, and that's not it at all. I am so sorry. I'm getting mine back there. I'm burning. So now, once you have that view, you want to be able to go back to that view very quickly, very easily. So to do that, you're going to come over to your cube and right-click on your cube. Come down to Set Current View to Home and to a fixed distance. What that does, it locks you to that screen. So now if you go like this, you hit F6, and it goes back to that view. The fixed distance means if I was zoomed in here like this and set it at a fixed distance and zoom back in there that close. Probably not real helpful. If I was zoomed out to here, it would do it that way too. Probably, again, not real helpful. And so there, we'll set you back. All right, so from there, now we need to put in your other parts. So we're going to go to place. Part number 1. How many part number 1s do I need for this thing? Actually, 2. So 2 part number 1s. And you also need 2 part number 2s. You also need 4 part number 3s. So there's all of my parts placed in. You've got plenty of experience, I hope, at constraining by this point. So here I'm going to go constrain, so I'm going to go C for constrain. I'm going to pick this bottom of this little slot here, and it's going to get mated just right to there. So it spins that around there and mates that. I'm going to apply it. Now, this piece needs to be rotated 180 degrees. You can use a rotate command, but that's just silly. It's a waste of time. Instead, use your constraints to rotate it. So I need this side over here, this face of it right there, to be flush with this face here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to a flush constraint. I'm going to click on that face right there. Come over here, click on that face of it there. And it spins that around 180 degrees. And we're good there. Now next, I need to face this side of it to my other block. So I'm going to go face that one to there, and I'm going to apply that. I said face, flush that to there. So that's got that piece put in there and looking great. From here, you need to just continue and put on the other, 7 parts onto this. As you're putting those on, you may notice there's some issues, some design issues. That's going to be our next thing we do here in a few moments, is look at some of the design issues with this block. All right, carry on. So there are enough people who are getting close to this and are starting to find some issues. You know, the guy who designed this block, or sorry, the guy who drew this block has some issues. It's not the guy who designed it, because that's Cameron. Cameron back in the day, he's awesome. His block was great. But then somebody, I don't know who it was, somebody redrew Cameron's drawings and maybe made a couple mistakes on them. If you notice your parts as you're assembling them together, there's a gap here in this part, and it sticks past this surface here. That's really not what we want. There's an issue there. Okay, well, you will if you did it correctly. So if you don't have these issues, you've made a mistake somewhere else. So either your parts overlap or your parts have a gap in them. One thing, all right, go ahead and focus, guys. Keep listening. One thing when you're doing assemblies in Inventor and you're doing animations in Inventor or anything else, one thing I'll tell you is you can't break the laws of physics. Can two pieces of material, solid materials, overlap each other in the world? They can't. They cannot overlap each other. So very similar to that exact statement is here. This block has this little 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch little notch cut into it. But it's designed to go all the way down and be pushed in this way. It will not push in that way because it's overlapping that purple block right there. It won't do it. So you have to modify the blocks so they will fit together. Now what I'll tell you is that person, again, whoever he was that made mistakes on this, made mistakes on parts 1 and parts 2. So this is part 2. This is part 1. So those two parts, there are mistakes in the dimensions on those two parts. Parts 3 and 4, if you followed the handout correctly, were drawn correctly. So parts 3 and 4 are good. Parts 1 and 2 have issues. So you will have to modify parts 1 and 2, and you just go up and open up parts 1. That was not the right part. You open up part 1 and 2, you modify them, you come back to your assembly, and update it on your assembly by hitting the little lightning bolt up here at the top. So there you go. I'm going to let you go and do that on your own and try to figure out what those issues are.